Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a motivational talk. This is a warning. Because right now, at this very moment, millions of investors are losing money, not because they are unlucky, but because they are uninformed, impatient, and distracted. Markets don't crash people. Decisions do. Every boom whispers comfort. Every bubble promises certainty. And every collapse leaves behind the same sentence: I didn't see it coming. But the truth is, the signs are always there. Overconfidence disguised as confidence. Noise mistaken for knowledge. Short-term excitement replacing long-term thinking. If you're investing without understanding why you believe in what you hold, if your strategy depends on headlines, influencers, or hope, then this message is for you, because investing isn't about chasing returns, it's about surviving long enough to earn them. This is your moment to pause, to think clearly, and to remember one hard truth. The market doesn't reward emotion, it exposes it. Listen carefully. What you do after this warning will decide whether you grow or disappear. Confidence without clarity is one of the most dangerous positions a man can stand in when it comes to investing. From the inside, it feels powerful, certainty, control, decisiveness, but from the market's perspective, it looks reckless. Many men are taught early that hesitation is weakness and certainty is strength, so they move fast, speak boldly, and commit money before committing to understanding. The problem is that confidence built on assumption doesn't protect you, it exposes you. Men often confuse being decisive with being right, especially in financial spaces where ego quietly competes with logic. From a man's perspective, admitting I don't fully understand this feels like surrendering authority. From a woman's perspective, it often looks like unnecessary risk-taking driven by pride rather than purpose. What many women intuitively sense, and many men ignore, is that clarity creates confidence, not the other way around. The market doesn't care how sure you sound or how calm you appear under pressure. It responds only to alignment between belief, knowledge, and action. When clarity is missing, confidence turns into stubbornness, and stubbornness keeps men holding positions long after the reason for holding them has disappeared. If you don't know why you're investing, the market will eventually decide the lesson for you. Many men enter investing with a goal that sounds strong on the surface: freedom, success, respect, but lacks emotional definition underneath. From a man's perspective, the why is often reduced to winning, proving capability, or staying ahead of others. Without clarity, every market move feels personal. Every dip feels like failure, and every loss feels like an attack on identity rather than a signal to reflect. Men are wired to endure pressure silently, and that silence often hides confusion more than strength. When the reason for investing isn't clear, men rely on external validation, charts, predictions, other men's confidence to guide internal decisions. From a woman's perspective, this behavior can appear reactive and fragile, driven by fear of falling behind rather than commitment to a long-term purpose. Women tend to ask what the investment serves, not just what it returns, and that question alone changes how risk is experienced. The market has a brutal way of exposing unclear intention by amplifying emotion. When the why is missing, discipline collapses under stress, patience disappears in volatility, and decisions become emotional responses disguised as strategy. Short-term excitement is seductive because it feels like progress without requiring patience. Many men are drawn to fast-moving opportunities because action feels safer than waiting, and movement feels like control. From a man's perspective, quick wins validate intelligence and courage, reinforcing the belief that speed equals skill. In investing, this mindset turns volatility into entertainment and risk into adrenaline, making it easy to forget that the goal was stability, not stimulation. Men are often conditioned to chase intensity, and markets are designed to reward that impulse briefly and punish it eventually. What looks like confidence in the short term often masks discomfort with stillness and doubt. From a woman's perspective, this behavior can appear impulsive rather than bold, focused on the thrill of the moment instead of the consequences that quietly accumulate. Women tend to notice patterns over time, sensing when excitement is replacing intention and when momentum is being mistaken for direction. The damage caused by short-term thinking rarely arrives all at once. It compounds slowly and invisibly. Each rushed decision trains the mind to react instead of reflect, weakening discipline and narrowing perspective. Over time, excitement becomes dependency, patience feels unbearable, and long-term strategy is abandoned in favor of whatever feels urgent in the moment. Risk is often misunderstood because men are taught to fear loss more than ignorance. From a man's perspective, risk is measured in numbers. How much can be lost, how fast, and how publicly. This focus on outcome rather than understanding creates a dangerous blind spot where confidence replaces comprehension. When men invest in something they cannot clearly explain, they aren't taking calculated risk, they are surrendering control while pretending to be in charge. Men frequently rely on symbols of certainty, brand names, popularity, expert opinions to justify ownership. Knowing who recommended an investment feels easier than knowing why it works. From a woman's perspective, this appears less like courage and more like avoidance, because true confidence comes from understanding the structure beneath the promise. Women often seek context before commitment, asking how value is created and sustained, while men are more likely to assume that familiarity equals safety. The mark? Eat punishes ignorance quietly but relentlessly. When volatility hits, a man who doesn't understand what he owns has nothing to hold on to psychologically. So fear takes over where logic should be. Without understanding, patience feels impossible. Conviction collapses under pressure, and every price movement feels like a threat rather than information. Discipline is quiet, uncelebrated, and deeply uncomfortable for men who have been taught to equate strength with brilliance. From a man's perspective, talent feels heroic. It suggests instinct, sharpness, the ability to see what others miss. Discipline, on the other hand, feels slow and restrictive, almost insulting to intelligence. Yet in markets, talent creates confidence, while discipline creates survival, and the difference only becomes visible under pressure. Men often believe their edge lies in being smarter, faster, or more aggressive than others. That belief feeds the desire to improvise, to break rules, to trust gut feelings when emotions are high. From a woman's perspective, this behavior can look unstable because consistency signals reliability far more than flashes of insight. Women tend to respect systems over impulses, recognizing that repeating the right behavior matters more than occasionally making the right call. Discipline forces behavior to stay aligned with intention, even when emotions are screaming for action. It protects men from their own overconfidence during wins and from self-doubt during losses. Without discipline, talent turns reactive, ego-driven, and fragile, collapsing the moment conditions change. From the outside, discipline looks boring. From the inside, it feels restrictive. But over time, IT becomes the only thing standing between composure and chaos. The market doesn't reward intelligence in isolation because intelligence fluctuates with mood, energy, and ego. Discipline doesn't care how you feel, how confident you sound, or how convincing the story appears. It simply demands consistency when excitement tempts you to break your own rules and fear urges you to abandon them altogether. The desire to win fast is rooted deeply in how many men are taught to measure success. From a man's perspective, speed signals dominance, intelligence, and control, and the faster the result, the stronger the validation feels. In investing, this mindset turns markets into competitions rather than systems, where the goal becomes beating others instead of building something that lasts. Quick wins feel like proof of worth, even when they quietly increase exposure to unnecessary risk. Men often treat patience as passivity, confusing restraint with weakness. When progress slows, discomfort rises, and action becomes a way to regain a sense of power. From a woman's perspective, this urgency often appears short-sighted because sustainability matters more than momentary advantage. Women tend to view stability as strength, understanding that endurance is not the absence of ambition, but the foundation of it. Staying invested requires emotional regulation more than intellectual confidence. Staying in the game means accepting that survival is a strategy, not a consolation prize. Markets reward those who can absorb uncertainty without reacting to it, and that skill challenges men who are conditioned to respond immediately to pressure. From the inside, doing nothing feels irresponsible. From the outside, it is often the most disciplined choice. Women are often more comfortable waiting for clarity, recognizing that preservation creates optionality while impatience destroys it. The market is not impressed by speed because speed increases exposure to mistakes that compound over time. Those who last understand that every decision is less about today's result and more about whether it reduces or increases the ability to participate tomorrow. Winning once feeds ego. Staying in the game feeds growth.